Hey everybody, this is X.
And I'm Kyle.
And I'm Felicia. We're the Utah Outcasts.
3 out, unashamed, and active atheists living in Utah.
And we are personally inviting you to let us love your ears each and every week.
As we take the news, current events, and pop culture and give it a little twist.
A love twist, with consent.
And we'll be joined each week by a special guest to tell us what makes them an outcast like us.
Come find us.
The Utah Outcasts.
On podhell.com, Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play,
Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
And on UtahOutcast.com.
We finally bought that domain off the kids handing out mixtapes in the mall.
Come be an outcast with us.
Take care of yourselves out there.
Bonne nuit.
And you're welcome.
And tonight, dear listeners, I have a special treat for you. I have Cash from Atheists on Air. Cash, how are you doing tonight?
Man, I am so glad to be here. It's been a while since I've been on the air, and I was excited to hear from you.
You guys, the rest of you listeners that haven't listened to Atheists on Air, Cash is the founder and host and emirate, if you will, of, like I said, Atheists on Air. So to have him on the air after what, a month, Cash? 2 months?
What, that I've been off?
Yeah, that you've been off
I've
here.
Been off since January.
Okay, so you guys are going to have a treat tonight. It gets a little bit more saucy than normal, but Cash has promised me he'll do his best to try to self-edit as much as possible. But who knows? We may hear a beep or a boop every now and then.
I will do my best. I promise.
So, Cash, well, I personally know a lot about you. Tell us, what's your story? What brought you to where you're at today?
In a nutshell, grew up Mormon, fundamentalist Mormon, not one of the Mormons that have 180 wives, not that, that wouldn't be out of the scope, but the main Mormon church.
So not one of the fun ones.
Not one of the fun ones, right? Not one of the ones that abused women, but still plenty misogynistic enough by themselves. Then, raised Mormon, went to seminary 4 years, as an adult, went sporadically, started going to other churches, and liked a lot of the stuff about Baptist or Pentecostals, more of a Baptist-costal mix. So I enjoyed that. I was always a Christian. I still paid my tithes to the Mormons because I believed they were the one true church. I just didn't get as much joy from going as I thought I needed. I like a little more entertainment, and Pentecostals are a lot more entertaining. So I started going to Pentecostal. My wife, who was already Baptist-costal, we went to church and for years. And one day on the way home from church, I had been asked to teach or preach for several Sundays and Wednesday nights, and I enjoyed it. So on the way home, as luck would have it, God sent me a message, and while I'm driving, and said, "Hey, you need to be an evangelist." Well, because I have this blur, there's no real, it's a gray area between normal Protestantism and Mormonism. I had to get rid of that. I had to separate the two. You can't really go talk about Joseph Smith and the golden plates, while you're preaching at the Baptist church. So what I did is I decided I was going to read the Bible and take a lot of notes so that I would alleviate any of the mixed stuff that I had grown up with, because the Mormons use a Book of Mormon, they use a Doctrine and Covenants, they use a Pearl of Great Price and the King James Version. But you don't know which came, because the preacher just tells you stuff and they don't care where it came from. It's just out of one of those books. So I decided I was going to read the Bible. I did. And I was depressed. And so I decided I needed to read it again, but this time pray and fast more. So I did it the second time. And by the end of that, it was a 3-year journey. I was an atheist.
So you said you went to seminary. What is Mormon seminary like? That's got to be just outrageously weird.
It's almost a requirement of the teens, high school age. Once you get to 9th grade, you have to go to seminary each morning prior to school. It's just enough to get a daily dose of Jesus before you head off to class. And that way, if you happen to see, tight jeans, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. And so back then girls wore the camel toe jeans, and that would put thoughts in your mind, along, that and the devil. And so you got this daily dose of Jesus. Well, it's more than just you go in and sing Kumbaya. You would go in for an hour prior to school, typically from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. every morning, 5 days a week for 4 years. And you would learn the Bible step by step, then the Book of Mormon step by step, then the Pearl of Great Price and Doctrine and Covenants. It's a 4-year plan.
It's really weird because I probably have a lot more familiarity thanks to Bryce Blankenagel and David Michael about what Mormonism is. I'm assuming whenever you say you get your daily dose of Jesus, it's not Jesus juice that you're talking about, which means not masturbating.
Well, no, you got it all. You got it all. You were taught it all. Not to masturbate, not to even have thoughts. Once a month in the Mormon church, you were required to go in and see the bishop. The bishop is the preacher. You would go see him, and it was alone. It wasn't like you had an audience, and he would go, okay, have you had any bad thoughts? Like, have you had any thoughts that Jesus would not be proud of? You'll need to tell me because Jesus has already told me. And so you go, yeah, I saw this girl at school and I wonder what she looks like without her pants on. And so that type of stuff, then they would punish you. They'd give you some type of reprimand for that. And it was more than, I kind of wish I had been Catholic because, a couple Hail Marys and Our Fathers and you're good to go. But I didn't have that. I had, okay, you can't go to the function this Wednesday, and you can't participate in church next Sunday.
See, I was about to make that comparison between Catholicism and Mormonism. But I can't say the only difference between it is, at least in Catholicism, you have that screen. You don't have to be standing right in front of someone, even though they may know you, but that minimum of anonymity,
Right. So, but the problem is as a youth, they always told your parents. So you really never got out of it. So even though they told you they're not going to do what?
You get punished twice, essentially.
Well, my dad didn't really punish me for those things other than maybe, condemn me further, and go, listen, if you're having bad thoughts about women, what you need to do is imagine them with, this is no shit. This is actually what he said. Imagine them with, like feces on them, and then you wouldn't be attracted. Well, all that did is just create a whole bunch of different types of perversions for myself. But I'm just kidding.
German Scheisse videos.
Yeah. So I don't know that I got an extra dose of punishment for it, but I did get, a talking to.
Now I know that you do have I don't want to say sorted, but an assorted versions of different types of Christianity that you have believed in. Would you care to speak about any of that and the conflicts, cognitive dissonance, anything like that?
Well, I separated it pretty clearly. I guess you could say it was cognitive dissonance. I always knew, because I was raised that way, that the Mormon church was the one true church that had the whole truth and nothing but the truth. But as I said earlier, I enjoyed the more fun churches, the churches that rolled in the aisle stuff, snake handling, where the preacher, lengthened a guy's leg one night, that kind of stuff. Did healings right on the spot. Who's got a headache? Okay, take 2 of these. Let me pray for you. In 2 weeks, I promise the headache's gone, kind of stuff. And I enjoyed it. I ate it up. I liked the more entertaining church, not the big band style, not where they're singing rock music, but the old country gospel, hillbilly gospel.
I would love to be able, and I normally, whenever we're talking to John, who is our apologist, our Christian apologist, if I were to see a leg grow 2 inches, I think I might reconsider my beliefs and that kind of stuff, but I've never seen it before.
Well, I saw it with my own eyes.
Oh, did you? You saw what grew 2 inches?
His leg grew. I knew the guy. His name was Randy.
Well, how did that happen?
And he always had a shorter leg, and he always wore a, whatever they call them in a shoe, some kind of thing that bolstered him up.
No.
And so the preacher said, who wants to come forth? And Randy does. And Randy had been going to church there for years. And so the preacher took off his shoes and showed everybody, let him walk around, and he's hobbling, because it's a good 1.5 inches, 2 inches difference. Well, then he puts his shoes back on and lays him down in the chair. And then he ends up taking him out of the chair and laying him on the floor, and he prays and he anoints his head with oil, and he pulls on his leg, and Jesus healed his leg. And
so he pulled on his leg.
Well, no, what he did really, and I learned this later, is he actually, to show the audience, which was only about 45, 60 people, something like that. It wasn't like a huge mega church, but he pulls the heel of the shoe forward. Okay.
I got it.
Well, nobody notices. You're all enthusiastic. You're all this, and James Randi is the one that I looked up and saw the shoe pulling trick.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Because I did have an issue when I left Christianity, left religion altogether. I had a problem with these miracles I had witnessed, and I needed to round that square peg. I needed to figure out how that stuff happened if there was no God.
No.
And so that's when I started researching skepticism. I didn't even know what skepticism. What I was doing is just researching, and then it made me more skeptical.
Well, if you wouldn't mind speaking a little bit more about, and this is, I don't want to get too personal about it. What weird hang-ups did Mormonism give you?
The worst is a horrible idea or ideology about sex. And I'm fairly old now. And I still have some hang-ups. And it wasn't until I read, and I want you to know I'm not being paid to say this, but it wasn't until I read Sex and God by Dr. Darrell Ray.
Yeah, that I love Dr. Darrell Ray. I love that guy. That
I realized that it wasn't wrong. But I still have these hang-ups because as a young child, you're ingrained with, oh, you don't think about women. If you think about women in a sexual way, you've already committed adultery. Well, here I am at 12 years old committing adultery like crazy. Okay, I'd go to school, commit adultery with my teachers and half the girls in the class. And then I lived on a farm, so some of the goats even probably I committed adultery with. I'm just kidding. But I have to tell people that because I don't know who your audience is, and but they'll go, "Oh my gosh, this guy needs to be shot."
Oh no, trust me, we're good.
But I did have hang-ups. I had hang-ups with oral sex. I had hang-ups with any type of sex that wasn't missionary position. We were taught in our teens that was the only God-approved way to have sex. So even to this day, I have to overcome these ideas in my head that make me feel guilt when there shouldn't be any.
Well, it sounds like they were like just pretty much any sex whatsoever was demonized, it seemed like. I mean, it was just whatever feels good and feels natural. That was just wrong. That's just wrong. You're not supposed to do that.
Exactly. But that's what created other issues. It created issue. I didn't masturbate until I was almost 18.
I'm sorry.
and never even thought about trying it because I knew that would like summon demons into our house. My